Assalamu alaikum. Hello everyone. Today we have another lesson in Mega Goal 6. In the previous lesson we had the last part of Unit 1, which is form, meaning and function. In this part of the lesson, or in part 11 in this unit, form, meaning and function, we focused on many things. We started with focusing on the vocabulary part, where we talked about some of the words that are related to business. We have here 3 columns in this chart: doing business, then we have good business and bad business. In this chart, there are many words that we can use to talk about the businesses in terms of being good or bad, or in talking about the business in general. After that, we have here articles. This is the grammar part. In this part, we have 2 types: the indefinite articles and the definite articles. The indefinite articles are 2 things, a and an, while the definite article is only the word the. There are some characteristics for each one of them. We have some characteristics for the indefinite articles and others for the definite article. We will start with the first one, which is the indefinite article. The first thing is that it comes before singular count nouns, okay? When we refer to the noun in general sense, when we talk about something in general sense, not in a specific sense, we use the indefinite articles, and also we use them when we mention something for the first time. When we talk about something for the first time, we use the indefinite articles. For example, a well-known soft drinks company created a new improved formula. Here we talked about soft drinks company for the first time. It is unknown. We are talking about something in general sense, and it is also mentioned for the first time. For that, we use the indefinite articles. After that, we have the definite article. It is used also before singular and plural nouns when we refer to something that we already know. When we talk about something we already know or something that we have already mentioned, we use the definite article. For example, the new formula, which was tested in 200,000 tests, replaced the original formula. Also, we use, this is the first usage for the definite article. Number 2, we use it with the superlative and comparative adjectives and adverbs. Also, we use it with to refer to inventions, like Alexander Graham Bell invented the telephone. And the last thing is that we have to put in mind that we don't use the before the names of people, streets, cities, and countries. After that, we have 2 parts in this slide. The first one is count or non-count nouns. Count nouns name things that you can count. They have singular and plural forms. Non-count nouns name things that you can't count, like advice, information, news, time, furniture, and so on. The non-count nouns, or before the non-count nouns, we don't add or we don't use the indefinite articles like a or an. After that, we have expressions of quantities. Expressions of quantities. Here we have some and any. Some and any are only used with plural nouns and non-count nouns. We don't use them with singular nouns. For example, there is some news, or there are some newspapers. Both of these sentences have nouns that are either non-count or plural. So we don't use the singular, or we don't use some and any with the singular nouns. After that, we have the first exercise for this lesson. In this exercise, we were asked to put the definite article or indefinite articles in the suitable blanks. We have here 5 sentences with some gaps, and the answers are as shown here in this slide. A company rejected the patent for the telephone. William Orton was offered the patent for an invention called the telephone. Number 3, Orton may have made the worst business mistake in history. Number 4, Alaska had been considered a burden rather than an asset by Russia. Number 5, replacing the old formula with the new formula proved to be a mistake, and the company brought the original formula back quickly. After that, we had this exercise regarding the vocabulary. In this exercise, we focused on words that are related to studying and our careers, and also about the university, schools, and so on. We have here a box, and we were asked to read the words, try to understand their meanings, and fill the blanks with the suitable words, and the answers are as shown here in this slide. Today we are going to start the first lesson in the second unit. But we will now focus on the title of this unit, which is Against the Odds. When we say the word, or when we say the sentence against the odds, what does it mean? What comes to your mind? Let's try to explain the meaning of this sentence. Against the odds means when you expect something, when you expect a result or outcomes of something, then it happened, or the result come in a different way or in the other way around. That means things happened against your odds. You expected something, but the results came in a different way. Okay? This thing or this situation is called against the odds, or the things that happen against or different than we have expected. Today we will start with the first part of this unit, which is listen and discuss. In every listen and discuss lesson, we have some questions that helps us to understand, to reflect, and to think about what we are going to read in order to help us to deepen our understanding for the passages and the stories. Number 1, despite difficult or unusual circumstances, things sometimes happen against the odds. People can achieve extraordinary things even when others think it's not possible. What is something you have achieved that you or others thought impossible? Number 2, remarkable and unusual coincidences sometimes happen when people don't expect them. Tell the class about a coincidence that you have experienced or have heard about. Now you can use these sentences to tell your friends, to tell your family, or you can use it and write your own story about some incidents regarding any event that happened against the odds. After that, we are going to move to the stories we have today. We have today some stories about events that happened against the odds. In the first one, we will start listening to a story about a baby who fell 2 times, okay, and what happened in each time he fell from the window. This story is called Beware of Falling Babies. So now let's go ahead and listen to the following stories. We have 4 stories. All I want you to do is to pick up your pen, listen carefully, underline the new words, and try to identify the proper way of pronouncing each one of these words. Now let's go ahead and listen to the stories.
Unit 2, Against the Odds. Pages 20 and 21. 1. Listen and discuss.
Beware of falling babies. One spring day in 1937, the lives of a street sweeper named Joseph Figlock and a 1-year-old baby were brought together in a most unusual way. As Figlock was walking down a Chicago street, a baby fell from a 4th-story window and landed on him. Fortunately, Figlock broke the fall and the baby was not injured. A year later, while passing by that same building, the same baby fell out of the same window and landed on Mr. Figlock. Once again, both the baby and Mr. Figlock escaped unharmed.
The fatal kimono. One of the most famous kimonos in Japanese history is one that in the 17th century was owned successively by 3 teenage girls. Each time one of the girls inherited the kimono, she would die before she had the chance to wear it. The kimono was believed to be so harmful that in 1657, a Japanese official decided to burn it in order to destroy the kimono forever. As the kimono burned, a wind blew the flame and spread the fire, which quickly burned out of control. Eventually, this fire spread through most of Tokyo, destroying 300 public places, 500 palaces, 9,000 shops, 61 bridges, and killing 100,000 people.
Struck by lightning. In 1971, a truck driver named Edwin Robinson was in a road accident. The head injury he suffered left him blind and deaf. Nearly 10 years later, on June 6, 1980, while looking for his pet chicken during a thunderstorm, he was struck by lightning. Robinson later recalled that it felt as if somebody had cracked a whip over my head. He was hit so hard that he was unconscious for 20 minutes. After regaining consciousness, he suddenly realized that he could see and hear again. And to make the story even more incredible, after decades of being bald, several weeks later, the delighted Robinson started to grow hair again.
Double Trouble. On July 28, 1900, King Umberto I of Italy was seated in a small restaurant when the owner came to take his order. The king and his advisor were astounded. The man looked identical to the king. After taking a few minutes to appreciate their striking resemblance, the men began talking and found a number of other odd similarities. Both men were named Umberto, both were born on the same day in the same city, and both were married to a woman named Margarita. The following day, the king was informed that the restaurant owner had been killed that morning in a mysterious shooting accident. Minutes after hearing this news, while climbing into his carriage, the king was assassinated.
After listening to these incredible and unusual stories, now we will have 2 exercises. In the first one, we will have some words that we will explain and talk and place in the proper blanks. And after that, we have an exercise where we are going to check our comprehension for what we have listened. Okay, in this quick check part, we have the first one, the first part, which is vocabulary. Complete each sentence with a word from the box. We have 6 words: assassinated, delighted, striking, astounded, resemblance, successively. Number 1, the word assassinated means someone who is killed or who was killed. Number 2, delighted means someone who is happy. Striking means something that grab your attention. Astounded means amazed by something. Resemblance, when two things look alike, we call this situation, or we call this a resemblance between these two things. Successively is when immediately one thing happens after the other. Now we have 6 sentences. We will try to put each one of these words in the gaps correctly. Number 1, the between Juan and his brother is incredible. They could pass for twins. The resemblance between Juan and his brother is incredible. They could pass for twins. We used the word resemblance because here we have twins, the brothers who look alike. Number 2, we were, by the news that they were leaving the country, astounded. Number 3, their letters became shorter and shorter until finally they stopped writing to each other successively. Number 4, I was, to get the news that I had been accepted into my first choice college. I was delighted. I was happy, the same meaning. Number 5, the heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne was in 1914. This was thought to be the first in a series of events that led to World War I. Assassinated. Number 6, that black and white photograph is so, I can't stop looking at it. Striking. Okay, after that we have here the comprehension part. In the comprehension part we have 5 questions. Number 1, how did Joseph Figlock save a baby twice? Number 2, why did a Japanese official from the 17th century decide to burn a certain kimono? Number 3, what happened when the kimono was burned? Number 4, how did Edwin Robinson's life change after he was struck by lightning? Number 5, when King Umberto I and the restaurant owner met, what similarities did they find they shared? You can pause the video right here if you want and go back to the stories in order to find the answers, or you can start answering right now from your memory, then you can go back and revise your answers. Now we will go ahead to the first question. How did Joseph Figlock save a baby twice? The answer is, on 2 separate occasions, Figlock was walking down the street and a baby fell on him. Number 2, why did a Japanese official from the 17th century decide to burn a certain kimono? Because 3 owners of the kimono died before they had the chance to wear it. Number 3, what happened when the kimono was burned? The fire spread out of control, destroying many buildings and killing 100,000 people. Number 4, how did Edwin Robinson's life change after he was struck by lightning? He was able to see and hear again, and he began to regrow hair on his head. The last question and the last part of our lesson today is number 5. When King Umberto I and the restaurant owner met, what similarities did they find they shared? The king and the restaurant owner looked identical, were born on the same day in the same city, and were both married to a woman named Margarita. Let's put in mind that when we answer the comprehension questions, we shouldn't copy the same or the exact words in the paragraph. We should paraphrase these words and use our own words instead of the author's words. This is the last part of our lesson today. Thank you all for attending our lesson, and I wish you enjoy the rest of the day. Assalamu alaikum.